Okay, welcome to the Snowpoint cast. Today we're going to be reviewing a deck list. We're going to be reviewing Plasma for 2014 States format. Really powerful deck. It's actually Trevor's list, so Trevor's here to talk with us about the list right now.
Yeah, so Plasma was a deck that me and Chase Moloney basically made with no testing and no prior games with it, but we saw it as a meta right for the
We'll just get dubs anyway, whatever.
Yeah. What's testing, right?
What is testing?
But yeah, this Plasma was, we were going to a format we were expecting to counter a lot of Darkrai decks and a lot of Blastoise decks, and that ended up happening. Me and Chase played this deck for 2 consecutive state weekends, with Chase winning the first one and getting top 4 in the second, and me getting second place at both of them. So
it's pretty solid results.
Yeah, it's definitely very solid.
Good finishes.
The only bad matchup for the deck felt like Trevor and Selgor with Silvermere, but if you dodge that then...
is a pretty uphill matchup, almost on a loss.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get right into it. So the deck starts off with 2 Thundurus. This is one of your main accelerations. Ride Knuckle, 1 Lightning for 30. Attach an energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Plasma Pokemon, pardon me. So yeah, really good early damage, like 1 for 30. You slap a Muscle Bend on there with some Deoxys and you're hitting for a lot of really early damage. And accelerating your board is also really good too, because you have some fat energy attackers.
Yeah, definitely excellent Pokemon. You set up for the deck basically revolves around using Thundurus to accelerate to your main attackers and then use those main attackers to get excellent knockouts. Like a Pokemon we're going to go into, which is Lugia. You get an extra prize card whenever you do damage with it or knock something out. So
yeah, so Overflow is a great. I mean, Thundurus has another attack called Thunderous Noise. You rarely ever use it. I mean,
emergency situations.
Yeah, if you're using Thunderous Noise, that's you're having a rough time. 2 Lightning, 2 Colorless for 90. If this Pokemon has a Plasma Energy attached to it, discard an energy attached to the defending Pokemon. Honestly, 4 energy for 90 is like really bad.
Yeah, the times that you'd use that is basically emergency situations where, yeah, you didn't have a Lugia charged up, you didn't have something that could knock something out, so you'd go for Thunderous Noise.
Or like maybe if you have to KO your Yveltal EX, like if you have that as well.
Yeah, exactly. If you couldn't get the knockout just with a straight Ride Knuckle, you could go for it with Thunderous Noise, but it did happen.
So you're going to talk about Lugia. Lugia's another really good card in the deck.
Yeah, Lugia is an excellent Plasma Pokemon. Basically, its ability Overflow. Anytime you take a knockout with Lugia EX, you'd get an extra prize card. So for the format, that was huge because it was an EX-heavy format. So what this deck basically tried to do was you'd use Thundurus to set up a KO with Lugia. Yeah, basically.
Pretty much legally cheat.
Yeah, and what Lugia's attack was Plasma Gale for 4 colorless energy, does 120 damage, but then you must discard a Plasma Energy attached to Lugia to perform the attack. You were able to one-shot things just straight with Lugia, but a lot of times what the game plan would be is the first turn, get an energy to the discard pile, use Thundurus EX to hit something, put an energy at Lugia, and then next turn bring up the Lugia and finish that Pokemon off.
And attack with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so easy to, like, as soon as you get that single acceleration with double Colorless and Colress Machine, like, if you get 1 additional, getting that DCE Colress Machine in the same turn, 3 energy is nothing for this deck.
Getting the energy on Lugia was definitely very easy to do, which is why the deck did so well.
Yeah, really good attacker. So that brings us to our next Pokemon on the deck. Another really important Pokemon, Deoxys EX. So you play Deoxys EX mainly for Power Connect. Helix Force is a really good attack, but we'll get to that in a sec. So Power Connect says your Team Plasma Pokemon's attacks, excluding the Deoxys EX, do 10 more damage to the opponent's active Pokemon. So that's actually really good.
Yeah, it sets up a lot of knockouts. Lugia EX has used that a lot. Basically what you do is you could score cheap knockouts on Pokemon with 170 or 180 HP by having 3 to 4 Deoxys on bench and then attaching a Muscle Band to Lugia and then scoring that.
And then you're OHKOing. Or if you get a hit with a Thundurus EX, you can set up for cheaper knockouts. You don't have to hit the full 170. You can hit, 1 Muscle Band and 1 Deoxys and a Lugia, kind of depending on what you have.
Exactly. And in the format, there's a lot of good Lightning Weak Pokemon like Lugia EX and Yveltal EX, who was in the popular Darkrai deck. And Yveltal was weak to Lightning, so something like Thundurus with 4 Deoxys and a Muscle Band in play, and you're one-shotting Yveltal EX for
180 for 1. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So Helix Force is also really good. So 30 plus 30 if you have a Plasma Energy attached for every energy on your opponent's active. So if your opponent has a massive Keldeo, you can just take it out with Helix Force. Or Mewtwo EX is another kind of common. Not as common in this format because it kind of died down in play because it wasn't as powerful. But Helix Force OHKOs a Mewtwo with the DCE too, which is also pretty good.
Yeah, or even if your opponent's using their own Deoxys EX and if they start turning an attack with it, you can use your own Helix Force to knock them out. So it's a very good Pokemon overall. We kind of made the deck go around and made it hit those numbers that it could not hit normally.
Yeah, and having that plus 10, like added to +4 with a muscle band is 60, and 60 damage out of nowhere is pretty surprising. It's a lot of damage.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't.
Okay, that brings us to Palkia EX. I know you love this card, so I'm gonna let you talk about this card.
Palkia EX was definitely one of my top 2 favorite additions to the deck. Basically, the night before a States Championship, we were thinking about playing Darkrai, Yveltal, just because it was a deck with 50-50s across the board. We kind of liked the idea of Plasma, because we'd been playing Plasma for the City Championships beforehand in the season. But the problem we had with the Plasma deck was that Blastoise and their ability to one-shot you with Black Kyurem EX, who would do 200 damage to you, was kind of concerning for the deck. So we thought of like what decks could we run to help us with the Blastoise matchup if we were going to run Plasma. And
Blastoise is one of the best decks in the format.
Blastoise
is very, very good.
Yeah, Blastoise is definitely one of the best decks in the format by far. Black Kyurem EX, the main attacker, was weak to Dragon. So we thought, okay, what could we play that would be a Dragon attacker? We'll look it up. Sure enough, there's Palkia EX, which is a Dragon Plasma Pokemon. Basically, what you have with it is you have your attack Strafe for 3 colorless, does 50 damage, plus switches Palkia to your bench. So why that was relevant was because with a Muscle Band and 2 Deoxys, you're hitting 90 damage, and then times 2 weakness on the Black Kyurem EX, you're knocking out and keeping the energy on the Palkia. So you can...
And keeping the Palkia out of the active spot.
Exactly.
Is another great part of that.
So it kind of forces Blastoise into this kind of weird position where if they attack with the Black Kyurem EX, you're going to bring up that Palkia, you're going to strafe, knock it out, and they're going to lose that Black Kyurem for pretty much free. Or if they try to charge up a Keldeo, who is not weak to Palkia EX, and they bring that up and start attacking, then you just use your Deoxys and knock that out. So they're kind of left in a horrible position where they have no good attack.
Unless they hit a catcher heads. Like, they have to have a catcher in their hands and hit a heads to kill a Palkia, which is a lot.
Which, yeah, they need the energy, they need to be able to attack, and they need to flip a coin and get heads on it. And even if they do get heads on it, you still have other plays. Like, you can still go with Lugia EX and knock them out. If they're using a Keldeo, you go with the Deoxys. So Palkia was really good. There's also another somewhat popular deck that was Raybor, which is Rayquaza EX and Enbor, doing the same thing Blastoise did, except not as not as good, really, but it was still a deck that saw play.
170 HP to 180 is actually a pretty big difference.
And you'd use the same strategy against that, it's just strafe knock it out. Palkia EX is just very good against Darkrai matchups where you just strafe set up KOs with your Lugia if you can't get the straight one shot with it for whatever reason, which did happen sometimes, just how awkward hands play out. But being able to Palkia in 2-shot and strafe to the bench was just phenomenal.
And strafing to the bench is also really good when you have this Pokemon.
Yeah.
Snorlax.
So a big play you did with Snorlax was Snorlax has this ability called Block, where if Snorlax is your active Pokemon, your opponent cannot retreat their Pokemon. So a play you could do was use Palkia EX, hit something that you want to keep, that you want to knock out next turn, strafe into the Snorlax, and now you're forcing them to hit whatever resources they need to attack, plus a switch out. Yeah, so it was just very important, very good. Snorlax also, you definitely attacked with Snorlax probably once every 2 or 3 games. It definitely happened. Snorlax's attack is team backed for 5 energy, does 30 damage times the amount of Team Plasma Pokemon you have in play. So if you got a full board, since every Pokemon in the deck is Plasma, you're hitting for 180 damage, plus whatever Deoxys and whatever Muscle Band. So kind of expensive for 5 energy, but it definitely was good to close out games.
And like when you play Scramble Switch, it's not impossible to hit either.
Exactly, yeah. It definitely happened. It used it quite a bit, and it was just a good one prizer. So if your opponent knocked out, they still have to take out the
130 HP. Like Baby Yveltal had that. A couple other baby Pokemon in the format had that, but it's pretty good. Like 130 is hefty for sure. So the deck also plays 1 Absol. You guys played only the Snorlax and the Absol, but you also could have played a Kyurem. Why did you play the Snorlax and the Absol over the Kyurem?
Kyurem was good. The reason we liked the Absol was because most decks, like the decks that we'd played against were mostly Darkrai Yveltal decks. Darkrai Yveltal would usually fill up their bench pretty easy. Against other Plasma decks, they also fill up their bench. Basically, Absol's attack is just for 1 dark, 1 colorless, Mind Jack. Does 20 plus 20 for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So what you could do is if you're facing against a Yveltal deck or a Plasma deck with a full bench, Mind Jack's hitting for 120 damage for 1 dark and 1 colorless. So very easy, just attach energy and Colress Machine onto it. And then Muscle Band plus like 3 to 4 Deoxys, you're one-shotting for a 1 prizer. So it was cheap, knocks things out. There was consideration for Kyurem, because Kyurem could snipe the bench and also get do a one-shot, but it wasn't as easy to get out.
And like Mind Jack is so easy to power up, like you were saying, like 1 dark, 1 colorless. You can drop it and then attack with it the same turn, and like having it out isn't that good, because if your opponent sees that you have an Absol, they're going to control their bench much more conservatively than if you were not. But if you drop a Prism and a Colress Machine in the same turn, how are they supposed to know that you can play that Absol?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what a lot of what it was used for, is sort of out of nowhere, they've having to overextend on their bench, and then you just bring Absol out of nowhere, get a one prize attacker, knocking out an EX. And even if you did have to play it down for whatever reason, if your opponent's limiting their bench, that can limit their options. So it wasn't too bad, like all in all.
Yeah, and both of those attackers are really good because you only other play EX Pokemon. So if you attack with one of them and they die, it doesn't really matter because you're just forcing your opponent to play a 7-prize game.
And unless you're knocking out your opponent like really quickly, like taking all your prize cards, then you usually use either the Snorlax or the Absol. Probably not both, but definitely one of the two.
Yeah, super good card. Okay, so we're gonna get some of the item cards. So the deck plays 4 Colress Machine. Really good item. It says you can search your deck for a Plasma Energy and attach it to one of your Plasma Pokemon. So this is Energy Acceleration, but it's also Search. Like if you don't have an Energy in your hand, you're at least getting one on your board. So that's really useful on Lugia, but again, it lets you power up all of your other Plasma attackers that much quicker.
Yeah, very good card. It's what would make the deck go around. Very easy for getting out that Absol quickly, getting out Snorlax, Lugia, Deoxys, Palkia, like pretty much everything. Seldom to this Thundurus, but other than that, yeah, you're just free energy, like an item for an energy.
Yeah. And you could even go like DCE, double Colorless Machine, and charge a Lugia in a single turn, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, you can be taking 3 prizes off the first turn.
Seems okay.
Definitely did happen a couple times.
if you have a good event. Okay, so the deck also plays 4 Muscle Band. This is really interesting, and a lot of the Plasma lists I saw around this time only played 3, but you guys decided to play 4.
We wanted 4 because we wanted a Muscle Band on every single attacker. Like there wasn't a single attacker in the deck that we weren't using Muscle Band for, and Muscle Band wasn't crucial, so it was like, why not play 4? Tool Scrapper was pretty popular in the meta, a card that discards up to 2 tools in the field, so you never want to be stuck in a situation where you're out of Muscle Bands. You're ever out of Muscle Bands and your opponent, you can't score that knockout because you're getting capped to a damage. So yeah, it was just we want to play 4 because we always wanted to have it.
And not having to search it is really good too. I mean, if you just have it in your hand, it's one less piece of the combo that you need.
Exactly, yeah, and just 4 is more consistent than 3. And you had games, especially with Tool Scrap in the meta, where you would be using all 4 on the board.
Yeah, that's a lot. So the deck plays 3 Plasma Ball, and I'm going to bring another Ball Search just because we can get all the Ball Search out at the same time. 1 Ultra Ball and 3 Plasma Ball. Yeah, what's with that split? It's a very interesting split on the Ball Search, especially with Ultra Ball being one of the best Pokemon Search out there.
Yeah, so a lot of lists played very heavy Ultra Ball instead of a Team Plasma Ball. The reason we played Team Plasma Ball is because we found ourselves, we just didn't want to discard cards from our hands, honestly. Like, we want to discard cards from our hands for the Thundurus, and that was kind of why people played a lot of Ultra Balls. But we only really wanted to do that on the first or second turn, and outside of that, we just wanted to get free Pokemon Search. We have so many resources. Like if you look at the deck, like other than the energy for Thundurus' attack, there's nothing you really want to discard. There's a lot of cards you want to save, like going forward later in the game. We did play 1 Ultra Ball though, so that if we have our Skyla as our supporter for the first turn and we had the energy in hand, we could play a Skyla to search out the Ultra Ball and discard the energy that turn. So that's kind of
to get the right knuckle, yeah.
Exactly right.
And 3 Plasma Ball. Plasma Ball's it's so interesting that they just printed a card that was like, just search it. Like, Ultra Ball's discard 2 to search any, but you only play Plasma Pokemon, so you can just search it. It's such a good search card.
Team Plasma Ball was an excellent card. Very good card.
Okay, so you guys play, I'm going to do the same thing. You play 4 switching options as well with 3 switch and 1 escape rope. Was that just because Skyla let escape rope be so accessible as well? Is that you played?
Yeah, we basically wanted 4 switch, but then we figured that we might as well play 1 escape rope because like a lot of the times, if you have a fully set up board, you don't usually care what your opponent's active Pokemon is. So if you're using escape rope as just a regular switch out, then you'd still be able to knock out the active regardless. It didn't really matter. But you'd also run into these odd situations where they're setting up one Pokemon to, like this, let's say they have one non-EX attacker that they send up to the active, so that you can't score that winning knockout with a Lugia. Escape rope just lets you get right through it. And a lot of decks did that where they'd run like one non-EX attacker and stuff like that. So
it's a really EX heavy format as well. So I mean, have it relying on getting a bench Pokemon active, hoping that's an EX is pretty common. That would happen a lot.
It actually won Chase his game into cut was the fact that he could escape rope in game 3 to be able to knock out something on the bench because the non-EX is put active. But yeah, it was just very versatile. Skyla could get it whenever you needed it.
It's always so nice when like that 1-of card just wins you a game and you're like,
yeah, it definitely won a few games. Like there's a lot of times where I was like, I need to get that escape rope for my deck with the Skyla. But yeah, just very useful. 1 and 4 switch, but escape rope was a good flex spot.
Yeah, escape rope's really good, especially when when you play one Scramble Switch as well. I guess it's technically your 5th Switch option, but it's more useful as an ace spec. And I'll let you get a little more into that because, I mean, you made the list. And it's interesting because a lot of Plasma lists opted out of Scramble Switch for, like, consistency. Like, they'd play a dowsing machine or a computer search. So, maybe just talk a little more about Scramble Switch.
Yeah, most decks would play a computer search just to search out any card you wanted for discarding 2 cards. We played Scramble Switch because we were playing attackers like the Palkia, the Snorlax. Basically, what just lets you do is if you go up with something like the Lugia, you attack with it. You can't knock out something next turn. You can Scramble Switch your active to a bench Pokemon and move as many energy as you want to that new Pokemon. What that lets you do is that lets you come up with explosive knockouts like the Snorlax. Like Snorlax is 5 energy, not really feasible. But then if you Scramble Switch onto it, you can suddenly come out of nowhere and just knock out that EX without your opponent kind of realizing what happened. It was also really good with Palkia because, like in the Blastoise matchup, using Palkia to strafe and knock out those black Kyurem EXs, but you're keeping the energy on the bench. So then if your opponent brings up something you can't kill, like maybe like a Keldeo, you can play that Scramble Switch, search with a Skyla, and then go take that energy off that Palkia onto something like a Deoxys and now knock out their Pokemon. You just kept the deck very fluid because you're really investing a lot of your turns into investing onto one Pokemon. Which wouldn't necessarily be easy for your opponent to knock out, so then you can reuse that attacker into something new.
And sometimes you have to like burn your Colress Machine too. I mean, the deck plays 4 Juniper. Playing in Juniper format means sometimes you have to just like burn your resources. So if you have to just like burn your Colress Machines, being able to switch them onto like a Lugia later can be really important for your Plasma Energy.
It also lets you go into some really surprise knockouts with Thundurus EX's Thunderous Noise attack. Definitely did that a few times against the available decks where you'd suddenly go into a Thundurus and Thunderous Noise for the knockout. And then there's also times where you just use it as a 5th switch, like kind of crappy when you have to do that, but it definitely had to do that.
An ace spec for a switch card could be worse.
Definitely had to use that a few times, but it's better to have a switch out than none at all. So.
Right, especially with this card being so prevalent in the format. So you guys played 2 Hypnotoxic Laser. That's a really interesting card to list. No other Plasma list played Laser.
Yeah, it's definitely something that me and Chase are very proud of. Basically, what we were thinking about it is that we had the thought, we're like, okay, we should play Plasma. But, okay, we found the Palkia EX. We feel comfortable that would be really good against Blastoise. But Yveltal EX Darkrai is very prevalent. They run Hypnotoxic Laser and Burbank City Gym to do 30 damage with poison between turns for an item. And that just is very powerful.
That's so much damage.
That's so much damage. So then we were thinking, like, well, kind of jokingly, we're talking about, like, what if we ran our own lasers and Burbanks? And then it kind of came up and like, well, what if we just run lasers and no Burbank and they'll play the Burbank for us? So we thought about that and we're like, okay, yeah, that could definitely work. At worst, the card is a plus power. It does an extra 10 damage, helps you with that knockout. So then you don't necessarily need to get that 3 or 4 Deoxys on the board. You can get like 2 or 3, which is a lot easier. But then if you're playing against a deck with Burbank City Gym, you're not behind because they have Burbank Laser and you don't. You run the lasers, they play the Burbank. So it saved us a lot of room and just really good.
With like Ride and Knuckle, like you hit Ride and Knuckle for like 50 or 60 with a laser, all of a sudden your opponent's at 120 coming back to you, which sets up for a really easy knockout.
Yeah, exactly. Like against a Yveltal EX, all you need is a Thundurus, a Muscle Band, 2 Deoxys, and a laser, and you're taking a knockout for 1 energy. Makes it a lot easier, makes it so you don't have to get those extra 2 Deoxys on the board.
Because hitting 4 to 2 is a pretty big difference. You draw into a fair amount of Deoxys, but you maybe hit 2 on the first turn on average.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and also like in emergency situations, you can go for that sleep flip and try to cheese a win.
Yeah, and like you were saying, it's a plus power. It's interesting to note that even sometimes to just get the knockout, it's worth it. With Overflow, like Lugia's Overflow, you don't necessarily have to, like, you don't get the prize because they die from poison, but sometimes it's worth it just take 2 prizes.
Definitely. Like if you're disrupting your opponent's board position by taking out their Pokemon with energy, even if you're not taking that extra prize card, just getting rid of that tempo for them is very important a lot of times. So yeah, like Laser was crucial. I played
that sleep flip. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just need to hit heads on a sleep flip to live a game.
Yeah, a joke that always me and Chase going to the events is that I face like the most horrible counter decks right off the start of the tournament. He'll face like regular decks. And
classic Chase.
Yeah, exactly. Like his first round was something like a Darkrai Yveltal, which we were hoping to face, and my first round was against a Plasma Clang Metal deck, where they run this Cling Clang that none of their Pokemon could get damaged by my Pokemon, my EX Pokemon. So like the only thing I can use is the Snorlax and the Absol, and that was
as soon as those are gone, that's tough nuts, dude.
Exactly. And I got down to a situation where they also run Cobalion EX, and I managed to score 2 knockouts on Cobalion EXs, but he's about to kill my last non-EX Pokemon, I'm going to be screwed essentially. So I go for Hypnotoxic Laser and get a Sleep Flips and stay in it, and then knock it out, and I win that round.
That's so sick. That's a first round win instead of a loss.
Yeah, exactly. I was very shocking when he opened up that, but I'm like, all right.
It feels so good to flip a heads on a laser, and it also feels just as bad to flip a tails on a laser.
Oh yeah, definitely did a lot of flipping tails, but luckily since he had 5 switch, I wasn't hit too bad.
Yeah, true. That's a really interesting point. So the deck also plays 2 Tool Scrapper. It's pretty basic. I mean, Muscle Band is a really good part of the format. Adds 20 damage, so that's pretty meta, and a lot of decks played that. But also you play Tool Scrapper for Garbodor. Garbodor shuts off a lot of this deck. It shuts off Deoxys, which is like a really important part of your strategy, and it shuts off Overflow, which you can't really live if you're having both of those shut off. It's a really uphill battle if you have to
it's definitely
Deoxys.
difficult. That was the main reason. Yeah, we basically played 2 Tool Scrapper because our deck's ability relied, and you kind of the magic number to run to. It gives you 2 free turns essentially where you can knock things.
I mean, and 2 is all you really needed, right? Like you take 1 3-prize knockout, and you take another, and then you win the game.
Exactly. Or even if you're taking 2 prize knockouts, you take 2 2-prize knockouts, and then you just scramble switch onto a Snorlax and hit for 180. So and then close the game that way. So yeah, the Tool Scrapper is fine. Yeah.
2 Tool Scrappers, definitely good.
All right. Then next up, I guess we have the supporters. So a very standard supporter. So for that, 4 Professor Juniper.
Really good card. Yeah, discard your hand, draw 7 is... since that card dropped, it was like 4 of in almost every deck.
Yeah, you kind of had to play 4. I mean, like, we're fine with discarding energy cards because of Thundurus EX. But yeah, just draw 7 was too strong not to run pretty much.
And discarding is almost a good thing with Ride and Knuckle. Like, getting energies in your discard is really beneficial if you start a Thundurus.
Exactly. Also played 4 Ns, so not, again, very standard for the format. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck and draws equal to the remaining prize cards. For the first turn or 2, it's shuffle your hand and draw 6, and then later in the game, you can use it to disrupt your opponent. Something that was actually very good in this deck was using the end to shuffle. If you drew Team Plasma Energy into your hand, Colress Machine only pulls them from your deck, so you can use the end to shuffle them back into your deck and try not to draw them again. But yeah, otherwise, just good draw supporter and always disruption. Like if you're down on prizes, you can end them into something that they can't knock your Pokemon out with, and then you just pull ahead.
End to 1, end to 2 is one of the strongest strategies in this entire format.
Yeah, it was very good. So yeah, there's no reason not to run 4 of that.
Yeah, 4/4, and that's pretty staple for most of the decks in this format. I think almost all the lists play 4/4.
Yeah, almost all the lists played 4 Juniper 4N. I can't really think of any like big discrepancies with that. And then next up we had 3 Colress.
It's a pretty heavy Colorless line.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy, but I mean, we ran a lot of Pokemon, a decent amount of Pokemon search. Basically shuffle your hand into your deck and draw equal to both players' bench Pokemon, so you could draw up to 10 cards in that format. If both players had a full bench, which a lot of people did.
And you almost always want a full bench because you want Deoxys sitting on your bench.
Yeah, you definitely always try to fill up your own bench as quick as possible with like 3 Deoxys, Thundurus, Lugia, and then some other attacker or a 4th Deoxys depending. So yeah, you usually get at least 5-6 card draw off of it, and then if your opponent also fills their bench because they're Darkrai or Plasma, then you just get a lot more. And like late game
shuffle draw 10.
Yeah, late game shuffle draw 10 is pretty good, especially if you're trying to fish things like your laser or your scramble switch or an escape rope
scrapper.
Any combination of cards that you're using to try to reach that knockout. So just as many cards that draw you cards which is really good. And then last up on the support account, they have 3 Skyla. Skyla, search your deck for a trainer card. So you can search your deck for a supporter card. Or
such a versatile card in this format. Gets you a Tool Scrapper, gets you a Laser if you need it, Switch, a Colress Machine, a Muscle Band, or even another supporter, right? If you start a Skyla and have a dead hand, searching for a Juniper, cool, at least we're set up for next turn.
I definitely did that a lot.
You did that a lot, I believe that.
But yeah, basically we recently played 3 Skyla was because we wanted 14 supporters, which is kind of the magic number back in the day. But there wasn't really a better supporter, and we didn't want 4 Colress because Colress on your first hand, if you have nothing else, isn't necessarily great. Especially if you don't only a few Pokemon, you can end up only drawing for
and even if you hit 3, like if your opponent has nothing on the board, what are you doing? Shuffle drawing 3?
Yeah, exactly. So Skyla can search you that supporter, so you have a good next turn. But also, like in the late game, was very good at pulling that escape rope, the Hypnotoxic, Tool Scrapper, Scramble Switch, that Muscle Band. Like it literally pulls anything from the deck. You have like access to pretty much everything with it. So
it lets you finish off your combos.
Yeah, exactly, right? It lets you finish off your combos in that late game. Getting that Scramble Switch is very important because it can be that game-winning play. So just trying to be 3 of those is kind of just consistency.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's leave that up with the energy cards. 4 Team Plasma Energy. So basically Team Plasma Energy counts as a colorless energy. But then a few Team Plasma Pokemon need a Plasma Energy for their extra effects. And it lets you pull it from the deck with Colress Machine.
Yeah, Plasma, it's like really vital to a lot of the special effects, like for Helix Force, Plasma Gale, any of the additional effects all require a Plasma, and Colress Machine being able to excel Plasma is just, it's just, you have to play 4.
Yeah.
Like, Lugia is way too good to not play 4.
Yeah, exactly. You have to play 4 because you also don't want to draw into them or have them on your prize cards because you can't Colorless Machine from either of those.
Yeah, if you prize 2, that's, if you only play 3, that means you get a Plasma Gale once in a game.
Yeah, that's not very good. You want to be doing that probably just 2 times in the game. But yeah, no, just you needed it for all the.
And having them in your hand is good too, because if you start with the Juniper, I don't want to say it's the most optimal attach because you play double colorless, but accelerating a Plasma with a Ride Knuckle is actually really powerful as well. It accelerates your board and puts you that one step ahead where now I don't need to hit a Plasma on my Lugia to start attacking with it.
Yeah, it's definitely just, you need 4. There's no reason not to run 4 in any sort of Plasma deck. And then next up, 4 double colorless energies. Still probably one of the best energies ever printed, but...
So good. Yeah, probably the best energy ever printed. Yeah, DC 2 for 1.
Yeah, it's 2 for 1 is just really good.
It seems like cheating, but it's not.
Yeah, and like you use it on your Lugia, saying your Lugia technically only needs like 3 energy.
Snorlax as well.
Yeah, Snorlax as well. Palkia too. Yeah, Palkia definitely. It was just very, very good. Like your main attackers for most matchups wanted it. Like your Lugia was your end game against most decks. Snorlax was like the finisher in most decks, and Palkia was your early game against any sort of Blastoise deck, early, middle, and late. So,
and if you can't hit that Thundurus chip damage, like chipping with Palkia early, like hitting a DC Colorless Machine, at least let you attack. You're at least doing something.
Definitely did that if you have a slow start, or just against any deck this week to it. But yeah, like 4 double colorless is just a nuts card.
Yeah,
Still
so
a nuts
good.
card.
Yeah, really good.
No reason not to play 4 of it. And then we get 4 Prism Energy cards.
Really good card too. So Prism says if it's attached to a basic Pokemon, it's every type of energy at the same time. So it has that unlimited restricted rainbow, but without the damage counter cost. And you only play basic Pokemon, so why not play 4?
Yeah, exactly. It's your energy for Thundurus, your energy for Deoxys, your energy for Absol. So it's just we considered playing basic Lightning energy because there was some special energy hate, like the level decks ran like an
enhanced hammers too. Yeah, there's some enhanced hammers.
But at the end of the day, we figured about it is that with the lasers, we would just get there against
just
it.
Win anyway,
right? Like
the lasers are so good.
Like even if they're removing 1 energy, your Thundurus can still go for big knockouts. So
yeah, and if they remove it, it's like okay, well if I hit another rainbow or a prism, I'm just going to reattach that energy.
Exactly. So we figured that we'd rather just have more flexibility with energy, which is why we ran 2 rainbow energy instead of any lightning energy. Basically, rainbow attached to any of your Pokemon, it counts as any type of energy, but you put a damage counter on that Pokemon. A lot of people played like 2 lightnings in that spot instead of the rainbows. But once again, we wanted the flexibility to be able to use that rainbow for a Deoxys or an Absol. And we figured the damage counter would only really matter against...
I mean, Absol's going to get knocked out anyway.
Yeah, Absol's going to get knocked out anyway. As far as putting on a Thundurus, they wouldn't be able to reach that knockout really quickly with the Yveltal anyway. But our Thundurus for 1 energy could still just take out their Pokemon.
Yeah, and most things that are hitting 170, like the 170 combo is usually getting hit for 160 too. Like,
yeah. It's pretty much exactly that. Is that if, that extra 10 damage a lot of the times didn't matter because laser would hit for 30.
Pretty relevant. Yeah, the consistency, like having 6 rainbows seems much better as consistency compared to the 2 lightning.
Yeah, because you don't want to be stuck in a spot where you have that Absol, you have everything that you need to set up for that knockout.
I can hit 170, but this is a lightning.
Yeah, exactly. That's lightning energy, so that Absol can't use that. Or I need to Helix Force Cake out of Keldeo, but now I got a lightning energy. Well, that doesn't help me. His energy, special energy hate, like removal and that kind of stuff wasn't a big enough.
You can actually get around the rainbow damage if you discard it with an Ultra Ball or a Juniper and then attach it with Ride Knuckle. You still get that rainbow effect, but you don't have a damage counter.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like in emergency situations where let's say you have like a Palkia with 10 health left for some unforeseen reason, you can put a rainbow energy on something else and then scramble switch to it. That's
like really niche but cool.
Yeah,
really cool.
You could come up. There were situations where it was close to coming up, but didn't end up happening each time. Each time I just basically scramble switch to a Snorlax and win the game. But
scramble switch to Snorlax to win a game seems like a pretty good combo.
Yeah,
team packed, and then having block after is like so good too because your opponent can't just be like, I'm going to put this floatstone thing up. Like, people did that in the day, and then they're like, oh, can I take that back? And you're like, oh, no, sorry, man. Block, man.
Yeah, as far as the deck, like, on the metagame, it was very strong. The only losses that the deck took was to Trevor into Selgor Silvermere, which basically item locks you instead of an item that says Plasma Pokemon can't damage you. So...
that's rough when you have the Plasma Pokemon.
Yeah, so there was only one in the tournament, and I faced that in the Swiss, but...
having a plus matchup against the entire meta, and, like, I've played this deck against the entire meta of cards and decks that have existed in this meta. And other than that Trev Excelgor deck, this deck goes positive against every deck.
Yeah, exactly. There was no deck I didn't want to see. The only things I didn't want to see was Trevor and Excelgor because you immediately lose to it. But it was a very niche play. Like very few people played it. The mirror match was also. I mean, mirror match wasn't bad. It was more just a kind of a cluster.
If you start Thundurus and get some energy acceleration and your opponent doesn't, you're probably going to be overflowing for surprises pretty quick.
Exactly. The people that the decks I lost to in the finals of both states, first week was Chase with the same 60 cards, and it was just, he got one turn ahead of me, and then that's pretty much all she wrote. And then next week was against another player who was playing a Plasma list similar to this, but didn't have the lasers and such. But yeah, Plasma was basically just who could set up... who could get that first crucial knockout and then keep it going. So
the thing about playing the best deck in the format is if you see a mirror match, that's your only bad matchup.
Yeah,
because they're also playing a
definitely the mirror match was not that great because it was kind of who could get off that good start first.
Okay, well, thank you so much for tuning into the Snowpoint Cast. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and we'll get around to them. Or the community is also really good. You never know, someone might answer one of your questions. But thank you so much for tuning in.